So you want to start a courier business, but you have limited money and credit. No worries. I'm going to walk you through 6 realistic ways that you can start your courier business and obtain the vehicle you need to start making money. I'm Sarah, the owner of D&G Couriers and Transports LLC, and I've personally navigated these options of obtaining a vehicle while building my own courier business. It's allowed me to go from $0 to earning almost $40,000 in a span of 30 days. These methods aren't theory, it is what actually works. The first and absolute best way to obtain a vehicle to start your courier business is actually to start with your own personal vehicle. Starting this way allows you to start where you already are without worrying about credit or additional money needed to acquire a vehicle. The gag is every vehicle in the courier industry makes money, okay? And starting with your own personal vehicle will allow you to start making money immediately. We're not waiting to acquire, to find, to vet, to go through all of these obstacles. We're starting with what we have in our garage already or parked outside. Now, don't worry. If you don't have a personal vehicle, the other 4 ways will be available for you to start. However, if you do have your own personal vehicle, it's recommended. And let me tell you why. When I first started, I started in my own personal vehicle. I grew my courier business over 7 years from the bottom to the top, from a personal vehicle driving, a compact car to cargo vans, utilizing box trucks, other people's equipments, you name it. What I've noticed is that when you start with your own personal vehicle, the profit potential per load is usually higher because when you do this business, you want to go the most efficient route. So let's say I'm using my own personal vehicle and I also have a cargo van and a box truck, right? If the load, you want to use the vehicle the most efficient way, if the load is only 1 box, right? You would use your own personal vehicle over the cargo van because you want to go the most efficient route. So a cargo van would be an overkill and cost you way more. So to go from, let's say, point A to point B may cost you $70 in your own personal car, but going from the same distance, point A to point B, would cost you $200 in a cargo van and maybe upwards of $275, $300 in a box truck. So with that being said, having a personal vehicle to drive actually allows you to make more profit for the same distance. Now, where you'll run into an issue is that when you begin to get loads that are higher volume, you're going to need more space. And usually your vehicle at that point won't suffice. However, you can start in your own personal vehicle and have routes where you're making well over $250 to $500 per day in your own car. I know, I've personally done it. So yes, start with your own personal vehicle if you have it available. If you don't have your own personal vehicle available, please listen to the other 4 options because there's still opportunity for you in this industry, even without a vehicle. The second way to obtain a vehicle is to borrow a vehicle from friends and family. I have personally done this. It may be less availability when it comes to this, but it is a source to consider. So your friends or family may have a bigger vehicle than what you have. And let's say you get a load, it needs more space, your car or personal vehicle isn't big enough, and you know a friend or family member that'll lend you their car, let you borrow their car. Awesome. Now, we want to give them an incentive. So if we want to borrow a friend or family member's vehicle, we want to give them a good reason to allow us to do this. And that incentive is a cash incentive. Usually I would pay friends and family about 10 to 15%, more closer to 10% of revenue when I would borrow their vehicle. So if I were to make $1,000 on this specific delivery, I would offer them $100 plus a refilled tank, right? A full tank of gas plus $100, which still would allow me to have a very healthy profit margin range. So let's say their vehicle is we're going to say SUV, right? Let's say their vehicle is an SUV. This really happened to me, by the way. So I'm using a family member's SUV. I'm going to make $1,000. I'm going to pay them $100 for using their vehicle, which leaves me $900. It's going to cost me, let's say, $50 in gas to get there, $50 to get back. So that's $100 in gas. So now I'm at $800. And for a good measure, I refill their tank and give them an extra $50 full tank of gas to drive around. So I pocketed and profited $850. And I spent about, let me see, is it $850? 50? No, sorry. Let me get my math right. So if I'm paying, I have $1,000 and I'm paying them $100 to use their vehicle, that's going to leave me at $900. If gas is going to cost me $50 there, $50 back, that brings us down to $800. So minus that 100 for the gas expense, 800, and we refill their tank just for good measure, minus another 50. So we profited $750. That's worth it. That's a good amount of money to make within one trip. It's possible. I've done it. Okay. So borrow a family member's vehicle if they have it available for the load that you have. The third way that I have personally used to obtain vehicles when I didn't personally have it was to utilize renting. So short-term rentals that have low commitment. That's like using companies. For me, I personally use Turo, but a lot of the popular companies that people use are like Enterprise, Penske, Budget, Hertz. All of these companies you can use to have a short-term rental for the vehicle, whether it be for a day, a week, or just a month. Once you get into the month range, it's kind of considered a long-term rental, and you can get, greater discounts in that way. I have, because I rented off of Turo, and although I paid about $400 per week, rental tends to be a little more higher, by the way. However, it's less commitment and you don't have to worry about the maintenance or anything like that. The main thing you want to look out for when you are renting a vehicle is the mileage caps. Most vehicles, when you're renting, if it is a cargo van or a box truck especially, they have mileage caps. But when you're renting a regular car, usually it's unlimited miles, but you can get unlimited miles on bigger vehicles. You just have to be aware of that and mindful of that before you book. So you want to ask those questions like, hey, how many miles am I allowed to go on this vehicle per day? And make sure those miles are more than enough of the miles that you need for the trips that you plan on taking for your delivery contract opportunity that you have. What else about renting? Availability. So sometimes when you rent, the vehicles aren't readily available. So you do want to rent as soon as possible, if that is an option you're going to go for. So once you have a contract in place or a delivery opportunity in place, and you know your pickup time and drop off time, you want to arrange your rental time around that, but immediately start looking for available vehicles in your area. So you can use apps like Turo, Hire Car, or Get Around, or you can use the major companies like Enterprise, Hertz, Penske, Budget. I think that's it for those. There's another company. I want to say it's not. There's another company I use, but for the sake of this video, I won't even mention it because it was a horrible experience. So in another video, I'll mention that company. I know it started with like a F. I wanted to say something like Fluid, but I'm not sure. Anyways, renting is an option if you don't have a vehicle. The other thing with renting, when you're renting from major companies, they usually require you to have a credit card or a higher down payment on a debit card. When you're renting from apps like Turo, Get Around, or Hire Car, there's usually no high deposit or anything like that usually, but it all depends. So be prepared to pay a deposit if you're going the renting or leasing route. The fourth way would be to actually buy a vehicle outright cash. This is not financing. This is not leasing. Buying cash would require you to save up a sum of money or use a sum of money that you already have saved up to acquire a cash vehicle where you get a clear blue title and you own it outright, no monthly payments, nothing besides gas and expenses. Now, honestly, this is one of my favorite ways. I would say it's my second favorite way. It's similar to personal vehicle, but personally you already have it. This is just more so you're acquiring it if you don't already have one. So if you do have cash, and a lot of people don't, I had to work my way up to here. So don't worry if you don't have the money laying around. You can get started with what you have. But if you do have the money, or if you have saved up the money, buying a vehicle cash is one of my favorite ways because you don't have to think about any other monthly expenses and you get to see a lot of profit this way. The first cash vehicle I bought was off of Facebook Marketplace, and it was a cargo van for the business. I mean, I bought cars, regular cars, but specifically I saved up for the cargo van, and it was a nothing fancy 2004 Ford E350, which I still have today. Runs great. And he wanted $3,800. I was able to get it for $3,400 after negotiating. And the thing about buying a cash card, you got to have a little bit of experience with buying vehicles and knowing if it's a good buy. If you don't, take a mechanic along with you who knows how to look at the vehicle and determine if it is a good buy because it's not running hot. It doesn't have any oil leaks. It doesn't have any, major transmission or engine issues that would make it, a bad buy. So you want to do your research and also take somebody along who is experienced with vehicles to help you make a good decision if you can't make it on your own. And to obtain a clear blue title at the time that you get the vehicle, do that transfer paperwork, or if they have the paper title, go ahead and sign the back and get that title. and get started with your courier business. The fifth way to obtain a vehicle is to finance a vehicle. So you'll go to a dealership and you will have to have a likely good credit or fair credit or bad credit and a down payment that goes along with your credit to obtain the vehicle. And you will have to acquire probably full coverage insurance along with having a monthly car note. Not my favorite way at all. I don't recommend unless. The only way I would recommend this high liability way of starting your courier business is if you already have a huge contract opportunity in place and guaranteed to you under the circumstances. So don't go out and just finance at all. The first thing you want to acquire is a contract opportunity. You want a contract that has consistent money coming in that will allow you to make far greater than what it's costing you monthly to finance this vehicle. Now, there are entrepreneurs who enter this industry, go ahead and buy finance a vehicle and make tons of money. They usually operate off the load boards and are willing to drive far daily and stay over the road extended amount of times in their cargo van to make money. If that does not sound like something you're willing to do, I don't recommend immediately financing a vehicle. You definitely want to explore the other options versus this option before you sign up for a huge amount of debt and liability. I do also have drivers whom I've hired, and they have their own vehicles that they pay notes on, and sometimes they're realizing that without having the contract and just bouncing around looking for money, they're usually just breaking even. So I don't recommend that as a beginning source, a beginning opportunity to explore. I recommend you do this only if you have guaranteed contracts lined up. Not I've heard about them, but I've already been in communication with them. They're waiting on me to bring the vehicle. We've already agreed on the amounts, things like that. The last way, and my most favorite way for you to obtain a vehicle in your courier business is to outsource and leverage other people's time and money. What do I mean by this? Hire a driver who already has the vehicle you need to get the job done, whether that's just a regular car, cargo van, box truck, or a straight truck. You're going to want to find a driver who has not just the equipment, but the credentials to complete the job. The reason why this is my absolute favorite way, because it puts you in the position of really being a boss, where you're not working on your business. Where you're not working in your business, but on your business instead. And that's something that like Robert Kiyosaki talks about. He talks about, being able to work on your business instead of in it. And that way your business becomes an asset versus a liability. When you're constantly working in your business is a liability because you have to be there and show up in order to make money. There's only one you, and there's only 24 hours in a day. So if you are able to remove yourself from the business as an employee or as a driver and look at your business as a whole and have moving parts where you delegate who does what, you have a greater opportunity to grow your business and be more successful in the long run. A lot of times doing all that driving and you're the only driver, you'll easily get burned out. And I started my business off as the driver and ended up employing, contracting really, with 1099 contract drivers to drive and do the loads for me in their own vehicle that I didn't have to pay for, that I didn't have to do the maintenance on, that I didn't have to worry about any of the gas expenses for. Only thing I worried about was paying the driver a fair wage and monitoring the load and making sure it got done. That's my favorite way. In that way, you have to be in a position where you're able to give up some money to make some money. You can start off in that position. A lot of people want to make an X amount of dollars and have this cushion set up. Hey, I recommend you get you a contract, hire some drivers that have the equipment, get it done. You'll make more money that way. And not only will you make more money, but you'll have your time and your freedom to enjoy your life and spend your money. So those are the ways I recommend for you to obtain a vehicle when you're just starting your courier business. You don't need everything figured out to start. You just need one aligned next step. If you want guidance on delivery contracts, setup, or scaling your courier business, make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you in my next video.